Hello there, this is Vin and Pip's channel, Covenant of Promise. The so-called Torah movement strikes again. So this time I've had, in the book of Tobit keeps the feasts outside the land. I've had Paul keeps the feast outside the land again. It's getting tedious now because it doesn't say that anywhere. But anyway, I'll go through the book of Tobit just to show you how much they're clutching at straws. Yeah, like literally vain imaginings beyond measure. Right, so here we go. Tobit 1, okay? It'll tell you that he doesn't keep the feasts outside the land. The sefer of the words of Tobit, son of Toviel, the son of Ananiel, the son of Aduel, the son of Gaviel, of the seed of Achel, of the tribe of Nephtali, who in the time of Emanasar, king of Asher, was led captive out of these Thisp, which is in at the right hand of that which is called properly Naphtali in Galilee, above Asher in Toviahu, have walked all the days of my life in the ways of truth and justice, and I did many alms deeds to my brethren and my nation who came with me to Nineveh into the land of Asher. And when I was in my own country, in the land of Israel, being but young, all the tribe of Naphtali, my father fell from his house of Jerusalem, which was chosen out of the tribes of Israel, that all the tribes should sacrifice there, where the temple of the habitation of Jehovah was consecrated and built for all ages. So this is coming out of the mouth of Tobit, yeah, who kept the feasts outside the land. So should we just read that again for the simple people who are full of their own vain imaginings? Which was chosen out of all the tribes of Israel, that all the tribes should sacrifice there, where the temple of the habitation of Jehovah was consecrated and built for all ages. I did that slow, right? Just for the special ones. Now all the tribes which together revolted in the house of my father Nephtali sacrificed to the heifer Baal. But I alone went often into Jerusalem at the feasts. So where did he go? To Jerusalem at the feasts. Did he do it in his back garden? No. Right? As it was ordained to all the people of Israel by an everlasting decree. Wonder what that means. Having the first fruits and tenth of increase with that which was first shorn, and them gave I at the altar to the priests, the children of Aaron, the first 10th part of all incense I gave to the sons of Aaron, who ministered at Jerusalem, and other 10th part I sold away and went and spent it every year at Jerusalem. Every year he went. Funny that, isn't it? And the third I gave to them, to whom it was meet, as Dobra, my father's mother, and commanded me, because I was left an orphan by my father. Furthermore, when I was come to the age of a man, I married Shinar, of my own kindred, and of her father Toviahu. And when we were carried away captives to Nineveh, so he's in captivity in Nineveh, yeah? So remember that. All my brethren and those that were of my kindred did eat of the bread of the other nations, but I myself kept from eating, because I remembered Jehovah with all my heart, and Jehovah gave me grace and favour before Enemasar, so that I was his purveyor. And I went into Madai, and left in trust with Gaviel, the brother of Gaviyahu, at Rages, a city of Madai, 10 talents of silver. Now, when Emanasar was dead, Kansheriv, his son, reigned in his stead, whose estate was troubled that I could not go in to Media. And in the time of Enemasar, I gave many alms to my brethren, and gave my bread to the hungry, and my clothes to the naked. And if I saw any of my nation dead or cast about the walls of Nineveh, I buried him. And if the king Canchervi, sorry, I don't know, Canchervi, it's a very unusual word, had slain any when he was come and fled from Judah, I buried them privily, for in his wrath he killed many. So what you've got to realise is these are in captivity, and the king's going around and just slaughtering anyone who feels like it. And you know, Tobit's burying them, and it's illegal to do that. If he's found doing that, he's for the chop as well. So he's been a decent guy. He's burying the dead and all that. I buried them privily, for in his wrath he killed many, but the bodies were not found. When they were sought for of the king, and when one of the inhabitations of Nineveh went and complained of me to the king, that I buried them and hid myself, understanding that I was sore to be put to death, I withdrew myself for fear. Then all my goods were forcibly taken away. Neither was there any left me beside my woman Canaan, which he's probably lucky that they left there, right? And my son Tobiahu. And there passed not 55 days before two of his sons killed him, and they fled into the mountains of Ararat. Chadon, his son, reigned in his stead, who appointed over his father's accounts and over his affairs Achicharus, my brother Aniel's son. And Achicharus entreating for me, I returned to Nineveh. Now Achicharus was cupbearer and keeper of the signet, and steward and overseer of the accounts. Echachadon appointed him next to him, and he was my brother's son. So now he can go back because somebody important is in power now, different king. So he can go back home without getting killed. So he's got someone looking out for him. Now when I was come home again, and my woman Shinar was restored to me with my son Tobiahu, in the feast of Savaot, which is the holy feast of the 7 weeks, there was a good dinner prepared for me, in the which I sat down to eat. Now he's gone home to Nineveh here. Now it says there was a good dinner prepared for me, in which I sat down, because he's been away from home. His wife's cooked him a nice dinner. Doesn't say he was keeping the feast whatsoever, right? If anything all we just read, he told you about how he goes to keep the feast in Jerusalem every year, but apparently now, according to the feasters, he's keeping the feast in his house, having a dinner on his own. Because you keep the feast on your own, don't you? Having a dinner on your own in your own house, right? With no priest there, and no menorah, and no temple, and no tribes, and no holy vessels, and no Ark of the Covenant, no land chosen for the presence of God, and you just do it in your house and have your dinner. That's what you do. So, like 7 weeks, and a good dinner prepared for me, in which I sat down to eat. And when I saw abundance of meat, I said to my son, go and bring what poor man soever you shall find out of our brethren, who is mindful of Jehovah, and lo, I tarry for you. But he came again and said, Father, one of our nation is strangled, and is cast out in the marketplace. Then before I had tasted any meat, I started. Right, so he leaves his dinner, right, because there's one of his brethren's dead in the street. I started up and took him up into a room until the going down of the sun, because obviously he can't be seen doing this. Then I returned and washed myself and ate my meat in heaviness, remembering that prophecy of Amos, as he said, your feast shall be turned into mourning, and your mirth into lamentation. So your feasts are going to be turned into mourning and lamentation because you're in captivity, yeah? Yeah, and there's dead bodies in the street, and Zion's no more. Right, so in no way is this man keeping the feast. He was having his dinner, now he's gone and got a dead body, which if you go to Leviticus, you're not allowed to touch a dead body for 7 days and attend the feast, yeah? And I think it's 3 days if the priest purifies you still got to wait 3 days before you can go. So he's just touched the dead body and then gone back to his dinner in his own house. That's keeping the feast, is it? I know all you guys, when you keep the feast, that's all you do. Have a big dinner and that's you keeping the feast somehow. Like vain imaginings beyond measure. Your feast shall be turned into mourning, and your mate into lamentations. Therefore I wept. Oh, he's definitely keeping the feast, this fella. And after the going down of the sun, I went and made a grave and buried him. But my neighbours mocked me and said, this man, not yet afraid to be put to death for this matter, who fled away, and yet lo, he buries the dead again. The same night also I returned from the burial, and slept by the walls of my courtyard, being polluted, and my face was uncovered. And I knew not that there was sparrows in the wall, and mine eyes being open, the sparrows muted warm dung into my eyes, and the witness came in my eyes, and I went to the physician, but they could not help me. A witness came into his eyes. So he's in lamentation and woe. He's just buried a dead body, and then he's blinded by sparrows' excrement. Sounds like he's having a great day, doesn't it? So what they said he was keeping the feasts for, right? Sounds like a wonderful feast, all right. Look at how much they're clutching at straws here. He's the. The hours come on, restored to me with my son Taviahu in the feast of Savaoth, which is the holy feast of the 7 weeks. There was a good dinner prepared for me, in which I sat down to eat. And they're saying that he was keeping the feast, after them just saying in chapter 1 that we only ever keep the feast in Jerusalem, where the temple is, where the presence of Jehovah is. And this shall be, I'll read it, by an everlasting decree, having the first fruits. Yeah? I mean, this is coming out of the guy's mouth, who they're saying's keeping the feast in his house in captivity, getting shit in his eyes and going blind, and quoting Amos, lamentation and woe. Burying dead bodies as he's having his dinner. Like, I don't know what to tell you, but you just see dinner or breaking bread. Paul was breaking bread in the upper room. All right. What's he keeping a feast? Breaking bread means preaching the gospel. What's he doing the feast? He's preaching the word. Just anything, bread, dinner. Oh, the feasting outside the land. Sick of looking up more scripture for you. Pack in your vain imaginings, because you're burning me head out. Till next time.